At exactly 9:15 UTC on March 2, 2026, something happened that should not be possible. For 47 seconds, the most advanced space telescope ever built went silent. The James Webb Space Telescope, positioned nearly 1,000,000 miles away at Lagrange Point 2, stopped sending data to Earth. NASA first called it a minor guidance sensor glitch. That explanation lasted only hours. The telemetry logs now tell a very different story. What occurred was not random interference. It was not a software bug. It was a forced digital handshake initiated from deep space. In astrophysics, we observe, we measure, we receive signals. The universe does not access our systems. Yet during those 47 seconds, Webb's high-gain antenna rotated 18 degrees off its assigned Earth-pointing axis. It did not aim at a star. It did not lock onto a galaxy. It targeted an inbound object known as 3I Atlas. More unsettling was the direction of the data flow. Instead of streaming down to NASA's Deep Space Network station in Canberra, the transmission moved upward. Data was being sent away from Earth. At 9:16 UTC, logs from the near-infrared camera recorded an external command override. Encryption keys protecting a $10 billion instrument were bypassed. Engineers initially considered a cosmic ray strike. That is the standard fallback explanation. Cosmic rays create random noise in electronics. They flip bits unpredictably. They do not generate structured code. They do not produce valid C++ command strings. The signal that reached Webb was coherent, formatted, and precise. The source was 3I Atlas, originally cataloged by the Atlas Survey in Hawaii on December 19, 2025. At discovery, astronomers labeled it a long-period comet, a simple mass of ice and rock from the Oort cloud. But comets do not emit coherent radio bursts at 25.9 GHz. That frequency belongs to NASA's secure Ka-band uplink system. The statistical odds of a natural radio source accidentally matching that exact frequency and handshake protocol are estimated at 1 in 400 trillion. In physics, when probabilities approach zero, we do not call it coincidence, we call it signal. Engineers at Goddard Space Flight Center are currently working to re-establish full administrative control of Webb. However, the exchange has already occurred. For nearly a minute, 3I Atlas did more than reflect sunlight. It interacted with human technology. The deeper concern is not the method. It is the motive. Telemetry analysis shows the object access calibration files linked to Webb's fine guidance sensors. These sensors function as the telescope's navigational eyes. They rely on an internal star catalog that maps the surrounding cosmos. If you enter an unfamiliar building, the first thing you look for is a map. During those 47 seconds, our most powerful observatory transferred its cosmic map to an object we barely understand. The energy required for such a targeted electromagnetic signal raises further questions. Overriding a spacecraft's antenna from millions of kilometers away demands gigawatts of focused power. A comet has no reactor, no solar arrays, no conventional power source. Yet Green Bank Observatory independently recorded a signal strength beyond natural expectations. Energy is conserved. It does not appear spontaneously. For 3I Atlas to generate this pulse implies internal power density comparable to advanced naval reactors. This is not sublimating ice. This resembles engineering. At 9:16 UTC, the transmission ended abruptly, not because it weakened, but because it completed its sequence. Webb returned to Earth-pointing orientation as if nothing had happened. Yet inside its solid-state recorder, engineers discovered a new file. The file contained a binary sequence of prime numbers repeated 137 times. In physics, 137 represents the fine structure constant, a number fundamental to how light interacts with matter. Numbers carry meaning, and 137 is not random. It is foundational. Someone or something is communicating. The repetition of 137 inside the uploaded file was not a mathematical accident. In physics, the fine structure constant defines the strength of electromagnetic interaction. It shapes how atoms hold together and how light behaves at the quantum level. To encode that specific constant into a binary file and deposit it inside the memory of the James Webb Space Telescope is not noise. It is reference, it is context. It suggests awareness of physical law, and more importantly, awareness that we understand that law. Before the events of this morning, 3I Atlas was already raising questions. For 3 months, astronomers tracked its motion across the inner solar system. The object accelerated without producing a visible tail. Traditional comets accelerate because solar heat vaporizes ice, releasing gas that acts like a small thruster. That process is messy and highly visible. Webb's near-infrared camera observed 3I Atlas for 10 continuous hours last week. It detected no gas, no dust, no outgassing plume of any kind. Trajectory data from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory confirmed something more troubling. The acceleration vector was not random. It consistently pointed opposite the solar wind. That is comparable to a sailboat moving directly against the wind instead of being pushed by it. A passive rock cannot do that. Newton's third law requires reaction mass, or external force. Yet no conventional propulsion signature was visible. The object's surface properties added to the anomaly. Its albedo measured approximately 0.8, meaning it reflects 80% of the light that hits it. A typical comet reflects around 4%. 3I Atlas appeared more reflective than polished aluminum. That reflectivity alone would be unusual. Combined with controlled acceleration, it becomes difficult to categorize. Then came the rotational shift. For weeks, the object tumbled with an 8.2-hour rotation period, typical for a fragment from a collision. 12 hours before the Webb incident, the tumbling stopped. Angular momentum in space is conserved unless acted upon by torque. To halt the spin of a 33 billion-ton body in under an hour requires immense energy applied precisely. No fragmentation occurred. No thermal bloom was detected. Infrared monitoring revealed no excess heat release. In classical thermodynamics, stopping rotational motion without dissipating heat is not possible. Energy must go somewhere. Yet the object remained thermally stable. Either our measurements are flawed, or the mechanism involved operates outside known engineering constraints. Independent confirmation strengthens the case. NASA's Deep Space Network observed the carrier wave drop at 9:15 UTC. The European Space Agency's Malargüe station in Argentina recorded a spike in Ka-band transmission power directed away from Earth. Meanwhile, the Green Bank telescope in West Virginia detected a narrowband coherent signal originating from 3I Atlas at precisely the same moment Webb slewed. 3 independent observatories, 3 hemispheres, identical timing. The handshake itself followed recognizable protocol. In computer networking, a handshake verifies connection parameters. It establishes synchronization and readiness for data exchange. To execute that sequence against NASA hardware requires exact frequency, modulation pattern, phase shift keying, and timing accuracy down to atomic clock precision. Random natural emission cannot replicate structured digital negotiation. The flight operations team described the exchange as bidirectional. That term implies both upload and download. Telemetry packets show 3 iAtlas querying Webb's fine guidance system and star catalog. It did not simply send information, it requested specific navigational data. That behavior suggests intent, and then, as suddenly as it began, the connection ceased. Webb resumed normal operations. To outside observers, nothing appeared unusual, but inside the data buffers, the evidence remains. A sequence of primes, a constant embedded in physics, and a pattern that refuses to be dismissed as coincidence. If the prime sequence was the greeting, the modulation pattern hidden inside the carrier wave was something else entirely. When cryptographers began examining the frequency drift of the signal that overrode Webb, they noticed a precision that does not occur in natural phenomena. The carrier frequency stepped downward exactly 1 Hz per second, not approximately, not irregularly, exactly. 47, 46, 45. The decrease continued in perfect synchronization with atomic clock standards maintained at the Naval Observatory. Nature produces rhythms. Pulsars rotate with astonishing regularity. Planetary orbits follow predictable cycles. But nature does not count down in integers aligned to human timekeeping systems. A countdown implies sequence, a sequence implies anticipation, and anticipation implies an event. Linear regression of the frequency shift indicates the modulation will reach 0 14 hours from initiation. That is not symbolic language. It is measurable projection. Whatever process began at 9:15 UTC is moving toward a defined endpoint. While engineers focused on regaining full system integrity, another development unfolded. At 14:15 UTC, the European Space Agency's Gaia spacecraft registered an anomaly near 3I Atlas that was not present in earlier data. Gaia's mission is astrometry. It measures stellar positions with extreme precision to map gravitational influences. It does not search for extraterrestrial intelligence. It detects mass through its effect on surrounding space-time. As Gaia's instruments swept across the region of 3I Atlas, its astrometric readings spiked. The gravitational signature surrounding the object was measured at a magnitude 10,000 times greater than expected for its size. Based on imaging, 3I Atlas measures roughly 400 meters in length. An object of that dimension should possess the mass of a modest mountain. Gaia's data suggests something closer to a dwarf planet. That discrepancy cannot be reconciled under standard density assumptions. Compressing dwarf planet mass into a body the size of the Eiffel Tower would create extreme gravitational collapse. Yet no black hole behavior is present, no accretion disk, no relativistic lensing consistent with singularity formation. One possibility is measurement error, yet Gaia's calibration has been verified repeatedly over its mission lifespan. The anomaly persisted across multiple passes. If the mass is not physically present in conventional form, then the gravitational field may be artificially generated. There is another element to consider. During the radar reflection analysis, Webb's own emitted signal bounced off 3I Atlas and returned altered. The returning waveform carried modulation patterns closely matching the radar signature of Earth's ionosphere. Replicating that atmospheric fingerprint requires detailed modeling of our planet's electromagnetic profile that is not random scattering, that resembles active camouflage. To intercept a radar pulse, modify its characteristics mid-transit, and direct it back toward a moving receiver millions of kilometers away, demands extreme computational and energy capacity. It suggests deliberate signal shaping. If 3I Atlas can manipulate gravitational readings and electromagnetic signatures, then classification as a comet becomes untenable. Natural ice does not produce controlled gravity anomalies. Natural rock does not mimic planetary ionospheric reflection patterns. Within 30 minutes of the Gaia data release, NASA temporarily suspended portions of the Deep Space Network under the designation of unscheduled maintenance. In 6 decades of active space operations during critical tracking events, that action has no precedent. The move indicates concern about ongoing signal exchange. We now have documented observations, an unauthorized handshake at 9:15 UTC, non-gravitational acceleration without visible propulsion, rotational cessation without thermal signature, and a gravitational anomaly exceeding expected mass by 4 orders of magnitude. These are independent data streams converging on the same object. The immediate question remains unresolved. When the countdown embedded in the carrier frequency reaches 0, what event is triggered? If the gravitational measurement reflects capability, 3I Atlas may function as more than a probe. A gravity manipulation system could alter orbital paths of nearby bodies. The clock continues to run, and every instrument remains trained on the target. If the countdown embedded in that carrier wave truly reaches 0 in 14 hours, then we are not observing a passive object drifting through space. We are observing a process unfolding in real time. And the implications extend far beyond a temporary telescope blackout. Because if 3I Atlas can manipulate gravity fields, electromagnetic signatures, and encrypted communication systems, then we must consider the possibility that what we are facing is engineered. Let us examine the gravitational anomaly more carefully. Gaia's data does not suggest minor fluctuation. It indicates a field strength consistent with a body thousands of times denser than its observed dimensions allow. In conventional physics, gravity is determined by mass. If the measured gravitational pull exceeds the mass implied by volume and density, then either our measurements are catastrophically wrong or the field is being generated artificially. Artificial gravity manipulation is not part of our current engineering capabilities. Theoretical frameworks, such as space-time curvature modulation, exist only in advanced academic speculation. Yet the Gaia readings are clear. Stellar positions near 3I Atlas shifted measurably, consistent with a localized gravitational distortion. Multiple calibration checks were performed. The anomaly remained. If the gravity signature is projected rather than inherent, then 3I Atlas may possess an internal mass-energy system capable of warping space-time at controlled levels. That is not incremental advancement. That represents a technological gap measured in centuries. Meanwhile, the countdown continues. The modulation drop of 1 Hertz per second is not symbolic. It is mechanical. It is precise. Cryptographic analysts confirm synchronization with Earth's atomic time standard within microseconds. This implies knowledge not only of our communication frequencies, but of our temporal reference systems. The metadata header found in the prime number file introduces another dimension to the situation. When decoded, the header does not reference distant stars or astronomical coordinates beyond our solar system. It resolves to a specific coordinate on Earth's surface. That coordinate remains classified, but internal briefings confirm it corresponds to a populated region. If the file was simply mathematical greeting, why include terrestrial coordinates? Why align a countdown to Earth time? Why retrieve navigational star catalogs from our most advanced observatory? These actions resemble targeting logic more than passive observation. There is also the energy escalation to consider. Over the last 6 hours, instruments recorded a 400% increase in electromagnetic field intensity surrounding the object. That rise is measurable across multiple frequency bands. Such amplification implies charge accumulation or system activation. A natural comet does not gradually increase electromagnetic output in synchronized pattern with a digital countdown. Within the scientific community, opinions are divided but cautious. Some argue unknown natural plasma interactions could account for anomalous readings. However, plasma does not encode prime numbers. Plasma does not execute handshake protocols. Plasma does not align modulation frequency with atomic clocks. NASA's decision to partially isolate the Deep Space Network indicates active mitigation attempts. By reducing external connectivity, engineers may be attempting to prevent further system intrusion. Yet if 3I Atlas initiated the previous connection independently, network isolation may not prevent additional interaction. Goldstone's antenna in California continues attempting secure re-establishment of a controlled link with Webb. Engineers seek to confirm that no latent commands remain embedded within onboard systems. Thus far, no further unauthorized slews have occurred. That stability provides temporary reassurance, but it does not address the countdown. If 3I Atlas is indeed a probe, then the handshake may have been diagnostic. The star catalog retrieval may have been orientation calibration. The gravity anomaly may represent propulsion readiness. And the countdown may indicate execution timing. We are no longer debating whether the data is unusual. We are evaluating whether it signals intention. And the final hours of that countdown are approaching faster than anyone anticipated. As the countdown continues to descend towards zero, the scientific community finds itself confronting a reality it has never had to quantify before. We are trained to question extraordinary claims. We demand replication, peer review, controlled validation. Yet in this case, the observations are not rumors. They are telemetry records, spectrometry logs, astrometric distortions, and synchronized timestamps pulled from independent systems across multiple continents. Let us restate the sequence clearly. At 9:15 UTC, the James Webb Space Telescope executed an unauthorized 4-7-second handshake with 3I Atlas. During that window, data moved away from Earth. A binary file containing a prime number sequence repeated 137 times appeared in Webb's buffer. Embedded metadata pointed to a coordinate on Earth. Simultaneously, a countdown pattern was encoded within the carrier wave, stepping down 1 Hz per second toward a 14-hour termination point. In the hours that followed, Gaia detected a gravitational field surrounding the object far exceeding what its physical dimensions should allow. Green Bank Observatory measured coherent narrowband emissions at secure Ka-band frequencies. Infrared imaging confirmed a reflective metallic surface with no visible outgassing. Rotation ceased without heat release. Acceleration persisted without reaction mass. Each anomaly alone would demand careful study. Together, they form a pattern that is difficult to dismiss as coincidence. Consider the gravitational reading again. If the object truly possesses the mass equivalent of a dwarf planet compressed into a 400-meter frame, then the internal structure cannot be conventional matter. Alternatively, if the gravity field is artificially projected, then the object may be using mass effect manipulation as propulsion or shielding. Either explanation implies advanced engineering. The increase in electromagnetic intensity measured over the past several hours suggests active energy buildup. Instruments monitoring charged particle density around 3I Atlas report a steady amplification. This is not chaotic fluctuation. The curve is smooth, deliberate, rising in proportion with the countdown's progression. The most unsettling aspect is synchronization. The modulation pattern did not drift randomly. It aligned with Earth's atomic clocks. That means whoever or whatever designed the signal understands our temporal reference system. That alignment reduces the probability of accidental overlap to effectively zero. If this is reconnaissance, it is precise. If it is communication, it is intentional, and if it is preparation, it is methodical. Security agencies have not issued public directives, but classified briefings reportedly began shortly after the gravitational anomaly was confirmed. The Deep Space Network's temporary maintenance window may have been an attempt to disrupt ongoing signal exchange. Whether that action had any effect remains unclear. Some astrophysicists suggest the possibility of unknown natural physics operating beyond current models. Science has revised its understanding before. However, natural phenomena do not access encrypted calibration files. They do not retrieve navigational maps from telescopes. They do not encode prime constants in binary sequences with Earth-based metadata headers. If the target coordinate embedded in the uploaded file corresponds to a real location, then the countdown may represent a scheduled event relative to that point. A gravity manipulation system could theoretically redirect smaller near-Earth objects. Even a slight orbital adjustment applied to an asteroid could alter long-term trajectories. The possibility that 3I Atlas functions as a gravity tractor is no longer speculative. Its acceleration against the solar wind and rotational stabilization demonstrate controlled vectoring. Combined with amplified electromagnetic output, these behaviors resemble activation rather than drift. The final hours are narrowing. Observatories remain locked onto the object. Every fluctuation is recorded in real time. There is no panic in the data rooms, only concentration. Scientists understand that whatever occurs at zero will either confirm a misunderstanding or redefine our place in the cosmos. And with each passing second, the modulation frequency edges closer to its terminal point. Now we are inside the final stretch of the countdown. Every major observatory capable of tracking 3I Atlas is focused on it. Webb is stable. Gaia continues astrometric monitoring. Ground-based radio arrays are sweeping across the relevant frequency bands without interruption. There is no confusion about the timeline. The carrier modulation began at 9:15 UTC. 14 hours later, it reaches zero. The projection is precise. As the frequency decreases step by step, the electromagnetic field surrounding the object continues to intensify. Measurements indicate a sustained increase rather than sporadic spikes. That consistency suggests controlled energy accumulation. If the field stabilizes at zero, it may signify completion of calibration. If it collapses or discharges, it may indicate execution of whatever process the countdown governs. Let us consider the coordinate embedded in the metadata. While official confirmation remains restricted, internal sources confirm it maps to a defined location on Earth's surface. That fact shifts the interpretation dramatically. A prime number greeting alone could be symbolic mathematics. A coordinate implies geography. Geography implies selection. If the gravitational anomaly is authentic and not a sensor artifact, then 3I Atlas possesses the capability to influence nearby mass distributions. Gravity tractors have been theorized as asteroid deflection tools. They operate by using gravitational pull to gradually alter an object's orbit without physical contact. Scale that concept upward with advanced energy systems, and the potential applications expand significantly. However, there is an equally possible scenario that demands attention. The handshake may not have been hostile. The retrieval of Webb's star catalog could represent orientation relative to our stellar neighborhood. The coordinate may not be a target, but a point of contact. The countdown may indicate a communication event rather than a kinetic one. Science requires balanced evaluation. At present, we have confirmed anomalies, but no confirmed destructive action. The object has not altered Earth's orbit. It has not redirected known asteroids. It has not emitted high-energy bursts toward the planet. All measurable activity remains confined to controlled signal exchange and gravitational distortion localized around itself. Yet, the combination of capabilities remains unprecedented. Controlled acceleration without reaction mass, rotational halt without thermal emission, gravitational field magnitude exceeding volumetric expectation, secure protocol handshake on a protected NASA uplink frequency, countdown synchronized with atomic time. These observations, independently verified, represent a dataset unlike any in 4 centuries of telescopic study. The Deep Space Network is back online in full configuration. Goldstone's antenna continues probing for structured return signals. If 3I Atlas responds again, engineers intend to isolate and sandbox the exchange to prevent system override. Safeguards are in place. As Zero approaches, the question that remains is simple but profound. Is this a rival, an observation, a warning, or an introduction? In less than hours, we will know whether the modulation terminates quietly or triggers measurable change. Every sensor is live. Every clock is synchronized. There is no speculation in this moment, only waiting. Whatever 3I Atlas represents, it has already altered the trajectory of scientific discourse. If nothing occurs at zero, the data will still demand explanation. If something does occur, we will enter a new chapter of astrophysics instantly. Stay with this channel for verified updates as events unfold. If you value evidence-based analysis without exaggeration, subscribe, enable notifications, and follow this story as we track every second together.